Damn it, you leeches thought you could bury me alive? Well, darling, I'm rising from the ashes, and your dirty secrets are coming with me. The words explode through the First Baptist Memorial Hall on Chicago's South Side like thunder through stained glass. Every head whips toward the back entrance where a woman stands, 75 years old, draped in a sleek black veil and oversized designer shades that cost more than the cheap flowers her kids bought for this circus. Ella Mae Johnson tears off that veil with one savage motion. Her silver locks cascade down her shoulders like liquid moonlight, and when she opens her mouth, that voice pours out. That legendary ballad voice that once made grown men weep in Harlem jazz clubs, that voice they thought they'd silenced forever. The room freezes. 300 people, forks hovering over funeral cake, champagne glasses halfway to lying lips. Her son Darius drops his plate. Ceramic shatters across marble tile like his carefully constructed world. His sister Tasha grabs the podium for support, her perfectly manicured nails digging into oak wood, her face draining of color faster than wine down a desperate throat. I know what you did. Every single thing. Ella Mae's voice shifts into an improvised melody, raw and devastating. She belts out their sins like a gospel confession in reverse. Darius, who drained $73,000 from her savings while she lay recovering from pneumonia. Tasha, who forged a will in her mother's name, already dividing up property like vultures over fresh carrion. The grandchildren Shanice and Marcus stand paralyzed near the dessert table. Shanice is 22, holding her phone like a lifeline, recording everything with shaking hands. Marcus, 19, looks like he might vomit into the punch bowl. Behind them, photos of a younger Ella Mae cover the walls. 1,970 seconds. Harlem, her name in lights at the Cotton Club revival. 1,985, holding a Grammy nomination certificate, joy radiating from every pixel. 2003, performing at President Bush's inaugural ball, draped in gold and glory. They thought they could erase her, package her up, ship her out to rot in some second-rate nursing home on the outskirts of Gary, Indiana, while they carved up her Bronzeville brownstone like Thanksgiving turkey. You're dead to us, Darius roars, lunging forward. His 6-foot 3-frame barrels through folding chairs, rage and panic wrestling for control of his face. Ella Mae sidesteps with the grace of a woman who spent 50 years commanding stages. She produces documents from her designer handbag, fanning them out like a royal flush. Bank statements, forged signatures, text messages between Darius and Tasha, plotting her demise in cold, clinical detail. Outside, police sirens wail closer. Someone called them. Maybe the funeral director, tired of this family's drama. Maybe Ella Mae herself, always 3 moves ahead. A dark chuckle escapes her throat, bitter as black coffee at 3 a.m. Her youngest grandchild drops an entire slice of red velvet cake, crimson crumbs exploding across white linen like blood spatter at a crime scene. Family ain't blood, Ella Mae whispers into the microphone someone left on the podium. It's loyalty. And mine ran dry years ago, decades ago, if I'm being honest with myself. The emotional weight of that confession cracks something open in the room. Tasha starts crying, but nobody moves to comfort her. An aunt in the 3rd row nods slowly, like she's been waiting 40 years for someone to finally say it out loud. But how did it get here? How did Ella Mae Johnson, the songbird of 7th Avenue, the woman whose voice could make angels jealous, end up faking her own death to expose her children? The answer begins 16 months earlier, on a bitter February morning when Chicago wind cut through your coat like betrayal through trust. Ella Mae stood in her kitchen, the same Bronzeville brownstone she'd bought in 1982 with her first real royalty check. 4 stories of red brick and limestone, nestled on a tree-lined street where MLK once walked. Every inch of it earned through late-night sessions, through tours that destroyed her knees, through sacrificing her own dreams so her kids could have college funds and down payments and wedding budgets. The coffee maker gurgled its familiar rhythm. Outside her window, February snow turned the street into a black and white photograph, beautiful and cold. Her phone rang. Darius's name flashed across the screen. "Hey baby, what's going on?" she answered, stirring honey into her mug, expecting grandkid stories or maybe an invitation to Sunday dinner. Instead, Darius said the words that would shatter everything. "Ma, we need to talk about your living situation. You're getting older. This house is too much. We've been looking at facilities." Facilities. Like she was a problem needing storage. Like 75 meant incompetent, meant disposable, meant convenient to shuffle aside. Ella Mae's hand froze mid-stir. Through the phone, she heard Tasha's voice in the background, coaching her brother. Feeding him lines like this was a rehearsed performance. That's when she knew. Her children, the babies she'd rocked through colic and nightmares, the teenagers she'd defended against racist teachers and predatory cops, the adults she'd bailed out of bad marriages and worse business deals, they were planning something. And Ella Mae Johnson, who'd survived the music industry's racism and sexism, who'd outlasted 3 record labels and 2 crooked managers, who'd turned pain into platinum records, decided right then she'd survive this too. But first, she'd need to disappear. To understand how Ella Mae Johnson ended up faking her own death, you need to rewind the tape, way back. Back to when her voice was liquid fire and her future looked brighter than Broadway lights. 1974, Harlem. The Apollo Theater's overflow crowd spills onto 125th Street like champagne from a shaken bottle. Inside, a 27-year-old Ella Mae owns that stage. Her ballad voice wraps around Midnight Train to Glory like silk around bare skin, pulling tears from men who haven't cried since their mothers died. 3 record labels fight in the lobby, waving contracts like white flags of surrender. She's unstoppable. She's inevitable. She's about to throw it all away for a man. Leroy Johnson slides into her dressing room after the show, smooth as Tennessee whiskey and twice as dangerous. 6'1", caramel complexion, smile that could sell ice to Eskimos. He's got hustle in his blood and trouble in his pocket, but Ella Mae only sees the way he looks at her like she hung the moon. 6 months later, she's pregnant with Darius. A year after that, she's married and landlocked in a crumbling Chicago walk-up on the West Side, trading spotlights for diapers and sold-out shows for lullabies nobody pays to hear. The record deals evaporate. Executives don't wait for young mothers to get their figures back. They move on to the next voice, the next face, the next woman willing to sacrifice everything for a microphone and a dream. Leroy promises he's building something, always building, never finishing. His business deals vanish like smoke, along with whatever money Ella Mae scrapes together from wedding gigs and church solos. By her 30s, she's teaching voice lessons in their living room, coaching suburban white girls through Amazing Grace, while her own career bleeds out in the background. Leroy's drinking gets heavier. His hands get meaner. The walls of that walk up close, in tighter every year. Then comes 1995, the year everything shifts. Leroy dies in what the police call an unfortunate accident. A fall down concrete basement stairs at 2 a.m., blood alcohol level high enough to pickle vegetables. Case closed within 48 hours. No questions asked. Just another dead black man in Chicago who drank too much, and gravity did the rest. But Ella Mae finds letters afterward. Tucked in Leroy's old guitar case, letters from someone named Marcus, not her future grandson. A different Marcus discussing money owed, threats made, deadlines missed. She never tells anyone about those letters, just folds them carefully, tucks them in a Bible her mother gave her, and keeps singing. At 52 years old, Ella Mae becomes a widow with 2 teenagers who learned their father's worst lessons better than they ever learned her love. Darius, 17, already gambling lunch money on dice games behind the school. Smooth talking his way out of trouble. Smooth talking his way into other people's wallets. He's got Leroy's charm without the conscience. Danger without the discipline. Tasha, 15, watches everything with calculating eyes. She learns early that tears get you sympathy, and sympathy gets you what you want. She manipulates friends, teachers, eventually boyfriends with surgical precision. Ella Mae tries. God knows she tries. Works 3 vocal coaching jobs, saves enough to move them to Bronzeville, that beautiful brownstone with the limestone steps. Thinks maybe a better neighborhood, better schools, better chances will fix what's broken in her babies. It doesn't. By her 60s, Darius is borrowing money for investment opportunities that never materialize. $2,000 here for a sure thing at the track. $5,000 there for a business partner who disappears. He's got 3 baby mamas, 0 steady jobs, and a gambling addiction that eats paychecks faster than Chicago winter eats exposed skin. Tasha's worse because she's smarter. She gaslights Ella Mae with surgical precision, tells her she's forgetting conversations they never had, questions her memory about money she definitely lent, plants seeds of doubt so deep Ella Mae starts wondering if she's losing her mind. One November evening, Ella Mae catches Darius literally raiding her cookie jar, not metaphorically the actual ceramic jar where she hides emergency cash. "Boy, you steal like you sing," she snaps, off-key and desperate. Darius doesn't even have the decency to look ashamed, just pockets $400 and walks out, leaving crumbs and broken trust on her kitchen counter. That's when the heart problems start. First, just flutter, irregular beats that doctors call stress-related. Then actual pain, crushing pressure that sends her to Northwestern Memorial at 3 a.m. Darius and Tasha visit once, stay 20 minutes, spend 19 of them arguing about which nursing home has the best resale value for her house. They don't know she can hear them through the hospital room curtain, don't know she's lying there, oxygen tubes in her nose, listening to her children plan her disposal like she's expired milk. The grandchildren are different. Shanice and Marcus, Tasha's kids, visit more, bring flowers, sit quietly, hold her hand. But they're young, powerless against their mother's poison and their uncle's schemes. Ella Mae goes home after 5 days, walks through her brownstone, touching everything like it might disappear. The piano where she taught hundreds of students. The walls covered in faded posters from her glory days. The studio space in the basement where she recorded demos that nobody heard. That's when she finds it. Her old reel-to-reel machine, still working after 40 years. Boxes of master tapes from sessions that never got released. Songs she wrote during those dark years with Leroy. Ballads about survival and pain and refusing to break. She sets up the microphone, tests her voice. It's older now, weathered, but there's power in those cracks. Truth in that roughness. Stories that need telling. For 3 months, she records in secret. An entire album of unreleased material. Songs about toxic love and stolen dreams and children who devour their mothers. She registers the copyrights under a shell company, makes careful legal arrangements, builds a fortress of protection around her final work. One day, she whispers into the microphone after finishing the last track, "I'll sing my truth, and when I do, the whole world's gonna listen." She doesn't know yet about the funeral plan, about the fake death, about the explosive revelation that's coming. But the seeds are planted, the revenge is germinating, and Ella Mae Johnson, the songbird of 7th Avenue, is about to remind everyone why you never count out a woman who survived the music industry, a toxic marriage, and children who wanted her buried. 3 weeks after recording her secret album, Ella Mae returns from a follow-up cardiology appointment to find her entire world padlocked shut. Her key won't turn. The locks have been changed on her own damn house, the brownstone she bought with royalty checks and sacrifice and 40 years of sweat. A notice taped to her door, legal jargon that translates to eviction, signed by someone claiming power of attorney. Her signature forged so perfectly she almost believes she wrote it herself in some medication-induced fog. Darius answers on the 3rd ring. "Ma, it's for the best. Your health, your age, we're selling the property. You'll get a cut after expenses." After expenses. Translation. After they pay off whatever demons are chasing them this week. Ella Mae stands on her own front step, holding one trash bag of belongings that a neighbor grabbed before the locks got changed. 75 years old, fresh surgical scar on her chest, watching her life get auctioned off by the children she sacrificed everything to raise. The full story comes out in pieces over the next 48 hours. Darius owes $73,000 to the Horseshoe Casino in Hammond, Indiana. Not the fun kind of debt you can negotiate. The kind where large men make midnight visits and discuss kneecaps. He needs cash fast. And Mama's house sits on property worth $450,000. Tasha's angle is different but equally poisonous. Her boyfriend, some slick lawyer named Trevor with a strip mall office and questionable ethics, figured out how to forge power of attorney documents. For a 30% cut of the sale, he'll make everything look legal enough that by the time it hits court, the money's long gone. They planned this, sat down together, probably over brunch at some overpriced River North spot, and plotted their mother's homelessness like it was a business merger. Ella Mae ends up at Greater Mount Zion Baptist Church on South Drexel. Pastor Williams remembers when she sang there in the 80s, remembers her voice making the stained glass vibrate. He offers her a cot in the church basement. No questions asked. She trades vocal lessons for shelter, teaches the youth choir on Tuesday nights, works with struggling soloists on weekends. Her voice might be older, might crack in places it used to soar, but it still carries truth that makes teenagers cry and grandmothers nod with knowing. Late at night, lying on that cot beneath fluorescent lights that hum like broken promises, Ella Mae lets herself remember. Darius at 6, crying because kids at school made fun of his secondhand shoes. She canceled a weekend gig in Milwaukee to stay home and take him shopping, spending money she needed for rent on Nikes that made him smile. Tasha at 8, scared of thunderstorms. Ella Mae turned down a 2-week tour opening for Earth, Wind, and Fire to be there every night, singing her daughter to sleep through Chicago's brutal spring weather. PTA meetings instead of recording sessions. School plays instead of studio time. Every sacrifice made with love, with hope, with the belief that putting them first meant they'd grow up whole and grateful. Instead, they threw her out like garbage on collection day. The tears come hard and ugly, the kind that shake your whole body and taste like betrayal. But Ella Mae Johnson didn't survive Harlem's music scene and Leroy's fists and the industry's racism by staying down. She wipes her face, sets her jaw, and starts planning. They think they're Wall Street wolves, she mutters to her reflection in the church bathroom mirror. Honey, I'm the lioness who birthed them, and this lioness still has teeth. By week 2, she's busking on Michigan Avenue, sets up near Millennium Park with a battery-powered amp borrowed from the church, sings those old ballads that made her famous, voice weathered but powerful, drawing crowds that toss bills into her open guitar case. That's where Darius finds her. 3rd day of busking, early October wind cutting through the loop like betrayal through trust. Ma, you're embarrassing yourself, embarrassing us. Just sign the papers, take your cut, move on. He's got documents in his hand, trying to pressure her into signing away any claim to the house, to the sale, to her own history. But Ella Mae's smarter than he remembers. She launches into Ain't No Mountain High Enough, her arrangement, her style, voice soaring over Michigan Avenue traffic. Phones come out, people record. A crowd forms, 3 deep, then 5. Then blocking pedestrian traffic. Darius can't touch her now. Can't strong-arm her with 50 cameras recording, with tourists from Iowa and locals from Inglewood all watching this old woman sing her heart out while some suited thug tries to intimidate her. He leaves empty-handed. Ella Mae pockets $217 in tips and a phone number from a young producer who wants to talk about her story. Then Ray Simmons walks up. Her old manager from the 80s, the one decent industry person she ever met. He's 79 now, silver beard and kind eyes, carrying news that shifts everything. Ella Mae, he says, pulling her aside to a Starbucks where he buys her first decent coffee in weeks. Your album, the one we recorded in 1987, that the label's shelved. Some kid posted it on YouTube last year. It's viral. 50 million streams across platforms. The royalties have been stacking. He slides paperwork across the table. Numbers that make her hands shake. Royalty statements showing deposits into an account she forgot existed, managed by a publishing company that somehow kept working while her life fell apart. $38,000. Just sitting there, waiting. Meanwhile, across town, Darius and Tasha's alliance cracks. Because Tasha's having an affair with Darius's bookie, the same man he owes 73 grand. She's been feeding him information, playing both sides, ensuring she gets paid even if her brother drowns. The bookie lets it slip during a collection call. Darius finds out his sister's sleeping with his creditor. The text messages between them get leaked somehow, screenshots spreading through their social circles like wildfire through dry grass. Everything they built together, every scheme they plotted, implodes from the inside. Ella Mae gets this news from Shanice, her granddaughter, who calls crying and apologizing and explaining that she never knew, never understood how deep the rot went. She stands in the church basement holding that royalty check, eyes blazing with something between fury and joy. The comeback isn't just coming, it's already here. And this time, Ella Mae Johnson's singing for herself. With $38,000 in the bank and nothing left to lose, Ella Mae Johnson becomes a ghost in her own city. Invisible, strategic, hunting for the truth she always suspected but never had the courage to confront. She starts with the journals. Her old journals from 1995, the year Leroy died, packed in a storage unit she's been paying $15 a month for 3 decades. Sits in that dusty 5x5 space reading her own handwriting by phone flashlight, and the pieces start clicking together. The 14th of March, 1995. Leroy acting strange. Darius, only 17, suddenly flush with cash. Says he won it shooting dice, but his hands are too steady, his eyes too calculated. The 20th of March, 1995. Leroy drinking more than usual. His whiskey bottle refilled when he swears he finished it. Someone's topping it off, keeping him drunk, keeping him vulnerable. The 23rd of March, 1995. Leroy dead at the bottom of the basement stairs. Blood alcohol level 0.28. Insurance payout $45,000. Darius suddenly has money for a car, for clothes, for taking girls to restaurants Ella Mae couldn't afford. Her 17-year-old son killed his father for insurance money. The truth sits in her chest like swallowed glass. But Ella Mae can't prove it, not after 29 years. So she focuses on what she can prove, on the crimes happening right now. She buys a gray wig from a beauty supply shop on Cottage Grove, adds thick glasses, a cane, shapeless house dresses from Goodwill, becomes Auntie Mabel, a confused old woman who hangs around the senior center on 47th Street asking questions that sound innocent but cut deep. The neighborhood snitches love Auntie Mabel, tell her everything over lukewarm coffee and stale cookies. About Darius's gambling debts ballooning to $90,000. About Tasha meeting her lawyer boyfriend at the Motel 6 on Cicero Avenue, planning something that involves medical evaluations and competency hearings. They're going to declare her senile, frame her as mentally incompetent, make it legal, make it official, make it impossible for her to fight back. Ella Mae follows Tasha one Tuesday afternoon, watches through a grimy motel window as her daughter and that snake Trevor spread documents across a cigarette-burned bedspread, laughing about how easy it'll be once they get a doctor to sign off on dementia diagnosis. The rage that fills Ella Mae in that moment could power the entire South Side, but she channels it, controls it, uses it like fuel. At the senior center, she meets Destiny, 23 years old, voice like honey and heartbreak, working 3 jobs while trying to break into Chicago's music scene. Reminds Ella Mae of herself at that age. All hunger and hope and talent nobody wants to pay for. She starts mentoring Destiny, free vocal coaching in exchange for help with her investigation, teaching this young woman everything the industry never taught her, all the survival skills she learned too late. One lesson in the church basement, destiny hits a note so pure it makes Ella Mae cry. Because that's the dream she gave up. That's the career she sacrificed for children who threw her away. Over coffee with Ray at a diner on State Street, Ella Mae lays out her evidence. The forged documents, the overheard conversations, the pattern of abuse stretching back decades. They think age softened me, she says, stirring cream into bitter coffee. Nah, Ray. It sharpened me like a Harlem blade. I got nothing to lose and everything to prove. Ray nods slowly, then drops a bomb that reconfigures Ella Mae's entire understanding of her life. Ella Mae, there's something I never told you. About Tasha. About Leroy. He pulls out a manila envelope, yellowed with age. DNA test results from 1,987 ordered by the record label during a contract dispute about insurance beneficiaries. Tests that prove Tasha isn't Ella Mae's biological daughter. She's Leroy's kid from an affair with a backup singer named Monica, dropped on Ella Mae's doorstep when Monica decided motherhood interfered with her career. Ella Mae raised another woman's child for 40 years, sacrificed her dreams for a daughter who never shared her blood, who learned manipulation from a mother she never knew existed. The guilt she's carried, the maternal obligation, the biological bond she thought made betrayal impossible, all of it evaporates, like morning fog over Lake Michigan. She joins a women's support group at the church. 8 women, ages 55 to 83, all dealing with toxic family members who see them as ATMs and retirement plans. Listening to their stories, sharing her own, Ella Mae finds something she lost decades ago: solidarity, sisterhood, permission to choose herself. Meanwhile, karma works overtime. Darius loses $17,000 in a poker game on the west side. Comes home to find Tasha's cleared out their shared office, taken all the documents about the house sale, left him holding debt and no exit strategy. Tasha cuts him loose like dead weight. No loyalty among thieves, especially when one thief is sleeping with the other's bookie. Shanice shows up at the church one evening, 22 years old, mascara running, holding a folder full of her mother's schemes. She found everything: the forged power of attorney, the competency hearing schedule, the plan to institutionalize her grandmother and liquidate her assets. Ella Mae looks at this grandchild, this young woman who could have stayed silent and profited, who chose truth instead. Blood don't make family, Ella Mae says, holding Shanice's trembling hands. Actions do. Loyalty do. You just proved you're more my family than the woman who birthed you. That night, back in the church basement, Ella Mae sits at a borrowed keyboard and starts composing a revenge ballad, something that tells her whole truth in four time. Her voice, raw and powerful and 75 years of surviving, pours into lyrics about betrayal and resurrection and women who refuse to stay buried. The song is called Phoenix in the Ashes, and it's going to burn her children's lies to the ground. $38,000 buys a lot of truth when you know where to shop. Ella Mae's first purchase is a private investigator named Marcus Chen, ex-NYPD detective who moved to Chicago chasing a quieter life and found he missed the hunt. Marcus looks like he walked out of a crime novel. 62 years old, Brooklyn accent thick enough to spread on toast, shoulders that suggest he's not afraid of confrontation. He meets Ella Mae at a diner in Chinatown and listens to her story without interrupting once. When she finishes, he slides a contract across the table. "Ma'am," he says, "I've seen a lot of family betrayal in my years, but your kids take the cake. Let's bury them." Over 6 weeks, Marcus builds a dossier that would make FBI agents jealous. Bank records showing Darius's embezzlement patterns going back 8 years. $73,000 from Ella Mae's accounts, but also money stolen from his baby mamas, his grandmother before she died, even his own children's college funds. Tasha's worse. Marcus uncovers a forgery ring she's been running with her lawyer boyfriend Trevor. They've scammed 11 elderly clients out of properties worth over $2 million combined. Fake power of attorney documents, forged wills, medical evaluations from doctors who lost their licenses in other states. Everything documented, everything admissible in court, everything that'll send them both to prison if played right. But Ella Mae wants more than prison. She wants exposure. She wants humiliation. She wants them to feel what she felt standing on her own front steps with her life in a trash bag. She starts training her voice again. Real training, not just the maintenance work she's been doing. Finds a vocal coach on the north side who specializes in aging performers, helps her rebuild strength in muscles that haven't been pushed in decades. The ballads shift. Start as sorrow, those old standards about heartbreak and loss. But week by week, they transform into something else. War cries, battle hymns, songs about women who rise from ashes and make their enemies remember why they were feared in the first place. One November night, weakness creeps in. Ella Mae sits in the church basement with a burner phone Marcus gave her. Darius's number glowing on the screen. Her thumb hovers over the call button. She hears his voice in her memory. All those times he called her Ma with love, with need, with the vulnerability of a child who thought his mother hung the stars, before greed poisoned everything, before he chose money over her life. She dials. It rings 3 times. His voice, cracked and desperate, answers. Hello? Hello, who is this? The desperation in his tone almost breaks her, almost makes her reveal herself, offer forgiveness, fall back into the pattern of maternal sacrifice that destroyed her dreams. Instead, she hangs up, turns off the phone, cries for 10 minutes, then dries her face and gets back to work. Because Ella Mae Johnson is done being weak, done choosing her children over herself, done lighting herself on fire to keep them warm. Tasha's hosting a fake charity gala at a River North hotel. Supporting at-risk seniors, the flyers say. Really just another scheme to separate rich white guilt from money, most of which will vanish into Trevor's offshore accounts. Ella Mae shows up in full Auntie Mabel disguise. Gray wig, thick glasses, a floral dress that screams confused grandmother. Gets herself invited to sing for the crowd. Tells them she's from the senior center they're supposedly helping. Then proceeds to butcher my way so magnificently, so off-key and chaotic, that the whole event devolves into uncomfortable laughter. People recording on phones. Videos going viral by midnight. Tasha's carefully constructed image crumbling in real time. But Tasha's smart, suspicious, starts asking questions about the old woman who sabotaged her event. Pulls security footage. Sees something in Auntie Mabel's posture that triggers recognition. 2 days later, 2 large men corner Ella Mae in an alley off 63rd Street. Tasha sent them. Collection thugs who do dirty work for her lawyer boyfriend, men who solve problems with intimidation and violence. You need to stop causing trouble, old woman, the bigger one says. Walk away. Forget whatever you think you know. But Ella Mae's been running from violence since Leroy's first raised fist in 1975. She knows these streets from her gigging days, knows every exit and shortcut, ducks into a soul food restaurant through the kitchen entrance, out the side door, loses them in a maze of alleys that connect, like Chicago's architectural veins. Her heart pounds dangerously, that surgical scar aches, but she's alive, she's free, she's not backing down. That night, lying on her church cot, memories flood back. All the time she forgave Leroy. The first black eye, the second, the broken rib he swore was an accident. She stayed because she thought love meant endurance, thought marriage meant suffering, thought mothers and wives sacrificed everything, including their safety. Now she knows better. Love shouldn't hurt, family shouldn't destroy you, and forgiveness without change is just permission to hurt you again. The knowledge that Tasha isn't her biological daughter sits different now. Not as betrayal, but as liberation. She doesn't owe this woman anything. Not loyalty, not maternal instinct, not the bond she thought was unbreakable. Destiny comes by for a lesson, struggling with a high note in I Will Survive. Ella Mae stops her midway through. Don't let family dim your light, girl, she says, voice fierce with earned wisdom. I spent 50 years making myself smaller so my kids could feel bigger. You know where it got me? Homeless at 75. You sing full volume. You take up space. You refuse to shrink. Destiny nods, tears in her eyes, then hits that note with power that shakes the church windows. That evening, Marcus brings the final piece. Death certificates. Blank forms from a county clerk he knows who owes him favors. Medical examiner stamps. Everything needed to fake a death that looks legitimate enough to fool her family. The funeral invitations get printed at a copy shop on Michigan Avenue. Elegant black cardstock with silver lettering. Celebrating the life of Ella Mae Johnson, 1949 to 2025. Service at First Baptist Memorial Hall, Southside. Marcus sends them to Darius, Tasha, both grandchildren, extended family, old friends. Sends them from a fake funeral director's office with condolence notes about sudden heart failure. The trap is set, the stage is built, and Ella Mae Johnson, the phoenix in the ashes, is about to give the performance of her lifetime. The funeral hall fills with lies dressed in black. 300 people who barely knew Ella Mae Johnson, who ignored her calls and forgot her birthdays, now pretending grief looks good on them. Darius stands at the podium in a rented suit, delivering a eulogy about a mother he claims to have loved. His voice cracks at calculated moments. Behind him, a slideshow cycles through stolen photos, her life reduced to PowerPoint transitions. Tasha dabs her eyes with Kleenex, playing the devastated daughter. She's already contacted 3 realtors about the brownstone, already spent her inheritance in her head, already moved on while pretending to mourn. The grandchildren look genuinely sad. Shanice keeps her head down, knows what's coming, playing her role. Marcus fidgets with his phone, documenting everything like Ella Mae instructed. Then the back doors explode open. November wind rushes in, carrying the scent of rain and reckoning. Damn it! You leeches thought you could bury me alive? Every head whips around. The woman in the doorway stands backlit like a movie poster, silhouetted against gray Chicago sky. Sleek black veil. Designer sunglasses that cost more than the cheap flower arrangements her kids bought. Ella Mae Johnson tears off that veil with one savage motion. Silver locks cascade like liquid revenge. Her voice, that legendary ballad voice they thought they'd silenced, fills the room with raw power. Well, darling, I'm rising from the ashes, and your dirty secrets are coming with me. The room freezes. Ceramic plates shatter. Someone drops their champagne glass. The sound echoes through stunned silence like a gunshot in church. Time moves in slow motion. Ella Mae strides down the center aisle, microphone already in hand, courtesy of Marcus's technical setup. Her heels click against marble like a countdown to judgment. She starts singing. Not a prepared song, but an improvised ballad, jazz style, making up lyrics that cut deeper than any knife. Darius, who stole $73,000. Tasha, who forged documents. Children who plotted their mother's homelessness over brunch and mimosas. You poisoned the well, her voice soars. Now drink the karma. Darius lunges forward, 6'3" of panic and rage. You're dead to us. She sidesteps like she's still 25, still dodging Leroy's drunken swings, still knowing how to survive men who think violence solves problems. From her designer handbag, she produces documents, bank statements, forged signatures, text messages between siblings, plotting in clinical detail, medical fraud, insurance scams, a pattern of elder abuse that makes half the room gasp. Outside, police sirens wail closer. Not by accident. Ella Mae tipped them off 3 days ago, gave them everything Marcus uncovered, made sure detectives would arrive exactly at this moment. 2 uniformed officers walk through those same back doors. Behind them, detectives in plainclothes carrying arrest warrants that spell out Darius's financial crimes in legal detail that'll hold up in court. Darius Johnson, you're under arrest for embezzlement, fraud, and elder abuse. The handcuffs click on like punctuation. Final, irreversible. Justice wearing a badge and reading Miranda rights. But Ella Mae's not done. A projector flickers to life, courtesy of Marcus's equipment. Text messages fill the wall behind the podium. Tasha and Trevor, her lawyer boyfriend. Tasha and the bookie Darius owes money to. Explicit messages. Betrayal in digital format. Evidence of her affair projected 10 feet tall for everyone to witness. The crowd erupts, gasps, shouts. Someone's filming. Multiple phones recording this Chicago family drama for posterity and viral potential. Grandchildren scatter like roaches when lights flip on. Marcus Jr. runs for the exit, can't face what his mother and uncle became. But Shanice walks toward Ella Mae with tears streaming, arms open, choosing sides in real time. "I'm sorry, Grandma. I'm so sorry." Ella Mae holds her, this grandchild who chose loyalty over profit. Tears mix with triumph on both their faces. 22 years of manipulation, unraveling in one honest embrace. A caterer in the corner, some kid barely 20, whispers loud enough for nearby tables to hear. Best funeral ever. Free drama with the appetizers. Nervous laughter ripples through the room. Breaking tension like thunder breaks humidity. Later, after police take statements and crowds disperse and the hall empties, Ella Mae sits on the front steps with Ray. The old manager stayed through everything, witnessed her Phoenix moment, now offers quiet support while Chicago drizzle starts falling. "I'm scared, Ray," she admits, voice small for the first time today. "What if I'm alone now? What if choosing myself means losing everyone?" Ray lights a cigarette, offers her one. She declines. He nods, takes a drag, exhales wisdom with smoke. "You're not losing everyone, Ella Mae. You're losing the people who were never really there. That granddaughter in there? She's family. That young singer you're mentoring? She's family. Real family shows up. Real family chooses you back." Ella Mae nods, feeling truth settle in her bones. "I built this life," she says, standing, straightening her shoulders. "Nobody's breaking it. Not again, not ever." Inside the hall, Tasha faces her own reckoning. The bookie, her lover, walks in, flanked by two men who don't look friendly, sees the projected messages, realizes she played him while he played her brother, drops her in front of everyone with words that cut deeper than any knife. "You're done, sweetheart. We don't do business with snitches. Karma works fast when you've burned every bridge." 3 weeks later, Ella Mae stands in the rain, outside a women's shelter on the west side. She's donating $50,000 of her royalty money, turning pain into purpose, transforming decades of abuse into safety for women who need escape routes she never had. The shelter director hugs her, calls her a hero. Ella Mae shakes her head. "I'm just a woman who survived. Now I'm making sure others can too." She walks through Chicago rain toward Ray's car, silver locks darkening with moisture, soul lighter than it's been in 50 years. Behind her, the shelter glows with warm light and second chances. Ahead of her, a future she's building on her own terms. A life reborn from ashes. A voice ready to sing again, this time for herself. Ella Mae Johnson, the songbird of 7th Avenue, has finally come home, not to a building, to herself. And that's the only home that ever really mattered. 6 months after the funeral that wasn't, Ella Mae Johnson stands in her reclaimed brownstone watching December snow blanket Bronzeville in white silence. The house feels different now, not haunted by betrayal but alive with possibility. The basement studio glows with new equipment. Soundproofing foam covers walls that once trapped her screams during Leroy's rages. Microphones hang where cobwebs used to gather. A mixing board sits, where old boxes of family photos collected dust and lies. This is her kingdom now, built on her terms, funded by royalties from songs she wrote in darkness, now bringing light. Darius writes letters from Stateville Correctional Center. 3 pages every week, handwriting shaky with regret. He talks about therapy mandated by the prison system, about finally understanding what he took from her, about apologies that can never undo decades of damage. Ella Mae reads them, doesn't respond yet. Forgiveness might come someday, but it won't be rushed, won't be performed for his comfort, will arrive on her timeline or not at all. Tasha's living in a studio apartment in Gary, Indiana. Lost her house, her boyfriend, her carefully constructed image. She's in therapy too, not court-mandated, but chosen, working through layers of dysfunction that started long before Ella Mae knew she wasn't biologically hers. Sometimes Ella Mae feels something almost like pity, then remembers standing on her own front steps with life in a trash bag, and the pity evaporates like Chicago summer rain on hot pavement. On a gray January afternoon, she drives to Oakwood Cemetery, hasn't visited Leroy's grave in 29 years. Stands there now in a black coat and red scarf, staring at a headstone she paid for with money she couldn't afford. "I stayed too long," she says to granite and frozen earth. "I let you break pieces of me I can never get back. But that's over now. I'm free. You can't hurt me anymore. Nobody can." The wind carries her words away. She leaves without crying. Forgiveness for herself, not for him. Understanding that survival sometimes looks like endurance, and sometimes endurance is all you have. Back at the studio, she auditions young artists. Chicago's hungry and talented. Kids with voices that need shaping and dreams that need protecting. Most are good. Some are terrible. All get her honesty. "Kid, you sing like a cat in heat," she tells a 19-year-old who thinks volume equals talent. "Let's fix that. You've got something under all that screaming. Let me teach you how to find it." The kid grins, recognizes tough love when he hears it, comes back 3 times a week for lessons that transform raw noise into actual music. One February morning, a letter arrives. No return address. Handwriting she doesn't recognize. Inside, a single sentence that makes her blood freeze. "You embarrassed the wrong people." Tasha's ex, the bookie, the one who dumped her publicly at the funeral. He's the type who holds grudges like investments, who sees revenge as good business practice. Marcus Chen handles it within 48 hours. Makes a few calls to Brooklyn friends who make different calls to Chicago connections. By week's end, the bookie gets a message that Ella Mae Johnson is protected, that touching her means problems he can't afford, that some battles aren't worth fighting. The threats stop. Ella Mae sleeps easier knowing she's not alone in this war. Shanice visits every Sunday. She's enrolled at Columbia College studying music production, working part-time at a recording studio in Pilsen, building a life separate from her mother's poison. Credits Ella Mae's toughness for showing her another way. "You taught me family should lift you up, not tear you down," Shanice says over coffee in Ella Mae's kitchen. "I'm done carrying their weight. I'm chasing my own dreams now." Ella Mae hugs her, feeling pride swell like gospel music in her chest. One saved, one who chose better. That's generational curse breaking in real time. She discovers Tasha has another daughter, 28-year-old named Keisha, product of a teenage pregnancy Tasha gave up for adoption. The girl tracked down her birth mother, got rejected, now searching for any family that might want her. Ella Mae invites her over. Sees Tasha's eyes and cheekbones, but different energy, softer heart, hunger for connection that isn't transactional. Starts mentoring her too, teaching vocals, offering the maternal energy Tasha never learned to give. "Blood doesn't make you my granddaughter," Ella Mae tells her, "but choice does. You're welcome here, always." In March, she records Karma Blues, a ballad that blends soul and revenge, 70s jazz sensibility with modern production. Her 75-year-old voice weathered and powerful, telling her story in 4/4 time with lyrics that cut like Chicago wind. The song drops on streaming platforms, goes viral within 3 days, 50,000 plays becomes 500,000 becomes 5 million. Young people discover her catalog, old fans remember why they loved her. The industry that forgot her suddenly wants meetings. Ella Mae takes exactly 0 of those meetings. She's building something better, a studio that mentors talent, a legacy that uplifts instead of exploits, a business model built on integrity instead of greed. One April evening, Ray visits for dinner. They sit in her kitchen, the same kitchen where Darius once raided cookie jars, and Tasha learned manipulation. But the energy's different now. Clean, hopeful, alive. Ray raises his whiskey glass. To surviving. Ella Mae raises her lemon water, smiling. To thriving. Family tried to bury me. They didn't know I was a seed. They clink glasses. Outside, spring rain washes Bronzeville clean. Inside, Ella Mae Johnson, the songbird of 7th Avenue, finally sings for herself. And the music she makes sounds like freedom, tastes like justice, feels like home. 2 years after rising from her own funeral, Ella Mae Johnson stands backstage at the Chicago Theater, 77 years old, silver locks styled in elegant twists, wearing a midnight blue gown that costs more than her first car. Her album Rising Roots hit number 3 on Billboard's R&B charts. Not bad for a woman the industry wrote off 50 years ago. 8 tracks of raw truth, produced in her basement studio, distributed by a label that actually reads contracts before signing them. Tonight's show sold out in 90 minutes. 2,000 seats filled with people who want to hear what survival sounds like when it's set to music. Ray stands beside her in the wings, now officially her manager, and something more undefined but tender. They hold hands like teenagers, 79 and 77, proving love doesn't have expiration dates. "You nervous?" he asks, knowing she's performed for presidents and packed Apollo crowds back when Nixon was in office. Ella Mae shakes her head. "I survived my own funeral, Ray. This is just Tuesday. The closure came in pieces, not all at once. You can't heal 50 years of damage with one dramatic moment, no matter how cinematic the funeral reveal was." Shanice thrives, graduated Columbia College with honors, works as a sound engineer at a major studio, visits every Sunday with stories and gratitude. Forgiveness for her came easy, because she earned it through action, through loyalty, through choosing better. Marcus Jr. took longer. He apologized 6 times before Ella Mae finally accepted. Now he's studying social work at DePaul, wants to help families like his avoid the toxic patterns that destroyed his. She mentors him carefully, with boundaries, proving redemption exists but requires work. Darius got paroled after 18 months, good behavior, and a judge who believed in second chances. He's living in a halfway house on the South Side, attending Gamblers Anonymous meetings 5 times a week, working maintenance at the same church that sheltered Ella Mae when he threw her out. They meet once a month at a diner on 47th Street. Supervised conversations, careful topics. He's trying, genuinely trying, but trust rebuilds slower than it breaks. Ella Mae sets boundaries firm as concrete. "I'll support your recovery, but I won't carry you anymore." He nods, accepts, knows he's lucky. She even answers his calls. Tasha keeps sending letters. Apologies that feel rehearsed, promises that sound hollow, requests for money wrapped in therapeutic language. Ella Mae reads them, files them away, responds with silence that speaks volumes. Real change shows in action, not words. When Tasha proves transformation through years of sustained effort, maybe they'll talk. Until then, the boundary stays locked tighter than her old house used to be. At a fundraising gala in June, some society woman, 3 martinis deep, tries heckling, questions whether Ella Mae really wrote her own songs, implies her comeback is manufactured, suggests her age makes her irrelevant. Ella Mae stops mid-conversation, turns with a smile that could cut glass. "Sweetie, I survived my own funeral and sent my son to prison. You're small potatoes. Want me to teach you how to carry a tune, or should we skip to the part where you apologize?" The room erupts in applause. The heckler leaves. Nobody questions Ella Mae Johnson again. Tasha tries one final play in August. Files a lawsuit claiming mental incompetence during the funeral confrontation, arguing the whole thing was elder abuse orchestrated by Marcus Chen and Ray Simmons. The case gets dismissed within 3 weeks. Marcus's documentation is ironclad. Bank records, forged signatures, text messages, witness testimony from 30 people at that funeral. The judge calls Tasha's lawsuit frivolous, orders her to pay court costs, warns her about wasting judicial resources. Karma doesn't just punish, it educates. And Tasha's education costs everything she has left. In September, Ella Mae announces the Ella Mae Johnson Foundation for Black Women Artists. Initial funding: $200,000 from Rising Roots royalties. Mission: supporting Black women musicians over 40 who need second chances, who got sidelined by family obligations or industry racism or life's brutal mathematics. Applications flood in. Single mothers who paused careers for kids, women who survived abusive marriages, artists the industry aged out before they hit 35. Ella Mae reads every story, sees herself in different timelines, funds 10 women in the first year. One grant goes to a 53-year-old jazz pianist from Detroit whose husband stole her equipment and left her homeless. Another supports a 42-year-old gospel singer whose church rejected her after divorce. Each woman gets $10,000, studio access, mentorship, proof that starting over isn't failure. Financial stability feels strange after decades of struggle. Ella Mae's got 6 figures in the bank, a house that's actually hers, royalties that arrive like clockwork. She buys good coffee, takes Ray to dinner without checking prices, donates to causes that matter. True friendship reveals itself in crisis. The women from her church support group, Ray, Marcus Chen, Pastor Williams, they showed up when she had nothing. They're still here now that she has everything. Ray becomes more than manager, more than old friend. They share dinner most nights, laugh about getting older, discuss music and politics, and whether deep dish pizza counts as actual pizza. Nothing rushed, nothing pressured, just companionship that feels like home. One October evening, he kisses her in her kitchen, slow and sweet, and 79 years of living behind it. "You're magnificent," he whispers. She laughs against his mouth. "Took you long enough to notice." Darius builds something humble, not his old flash, not his hustler dreams, just honest work and daily recovery. He'll never be who he was before greed consumed him. That's probably better. Tasha faces isolation. Friends disappeared when the scandal broke. Trevor the lawyer lost his license. Her kids keep distance. She's working retail in Gary, attending therapy she can finally almost afford, learning that consequences are the best teachers. Tonight, Ella Mae steps onto the Chicago theater stage. 2,000 people rise, applause crashing like Lake Michigan waves against concrete. She walks to center stage, microphone in hand, voice ready. The opening notes of Phoenix in the Ashes fill the theater. Her voice, weathered and powerful, carries truth that makes grown people cry. She sings about betrayal and resurrection, about family that breaks you and karma that rebuilds you stronger, about women who refuse to stay buried. The crowd roars. She holds that final note, lets it fill every corner. Proof that survival sounds like victory when you're brave enough to sing it. Family can break you, her voice echoes, but karma rebuilds you stronger. And music saves everything. The lights fade on Ella Mae Johnson's radiant smile. Successful, serene, unbreakable. A woman who died at her own funeral and rose more powerful than ever. The songbird of 7th Avenue flies again,